this month of Women's Month in this country. Just on some admin to note when we're having the panel discussion, to help us manage our time, we ask that we use the chat box for those valuable contributions and those questions that you might have. So my colleague Yasira and I'm not seeing her, will be monitoring the chat box, and then we'll pass on the direct questions for if you've got any direct questions for any panel members, Yasira and I will pass those on to Janine, and then she will ask those questions for you. But we welcome those valuable contributions, thoughts, and the aim is to really have a conversation. As we're saying, we want to amplify all our voices here. Right, I've spoken quite a lot. So now that all the admin is out of the way, it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to this amazing and phenomenal woman, Janine Hills, the founder and CEO at Janine Hills Authentic Leadership. Somebody who is deeply passionate about seeing women amplifying their voices and also leading with distinction. So I chatted with Janine and I said, I don't like typical bios, this and this and that. And I said, and by no means am I not discrediting all of the valuable stuff that you've done. But I believe that people connect with the person, right? So it would be great to hear a little bit about yourself and how, what are the stuff that you want people to know about you and remember about you. So it's still very much around her career, but the great thing about it is that some of the great lessons that she learned as a woman and what made her who she is today. So she hails from the Eastern Cape, although her East Xhosa is a bit rough, she admittedly said, but she's very proud to be from the Eastern Cape. And she started in hospitality industry, and it was there that she learned about serving others. So she completely believes in the servant leadership because it's where she gained it from. So she appreciates that for that. Then she moved and she also learned a lot about confidence. That's where she built her confidence. As somebody who didn't grow up in a very rich family, working in a 5-star, for example, hotels and stuff, gave her that confidence that, hey, this is just another place and anybody can actually walk in here and do something. Then she moved into corporate where she learned a lot about discipline. But she also said she learned some bad lessons from corporate. As we know, as women, we learn from what happens on the corporate table, and the board tables, the language that is used there, and we think it's okay to adjust to that, especially when we're young in our careers. So she learned some bad lessons as well, which thank God in her next then career, when she moved to banking, she then unlearned all those bad lessons, and she learned to be mutable. She learned to be mutable and to work with people and to be respectful. So on a personal level, she worked at Comunio in Spain, and she's been to the best base camp of Everest mountain, and she learned physical strength there. So that's where she believes that as women in leadership, we need all our strength, not just our emotional strength, not just our mental strength, but also our physical strength for us to carry on all the stuff that we're dealing with. So it was at the Everest base camp that she learned and she gained this physical strength. So without wasting any more time, I hope that I did justice to your introduction, Janine, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome you, and very well welcome to everyone once again. Over to you, Janine.
Tato. Yes, of course. You did. Of course you did me proud. It was nice for us to connect yesterday. So thank you very much. It was awesome. So really, I think the big thing is about us finding ourselves in this journey. And I think we must celebrate this month. So I just really wanted to reach out to everybody, not only our speakers today, but really to everybody involved, and to thank Duke and the Duke team, the Duke CE team. Thank you, because this wouldn't have happened without them. And the team is so professional, checking us and technical checks and this check check and that check and this, that. So important, Yashira, thank you for managing us through this process, because it's because of you and the team, and Hope and Tatu and Karen, of course, for making it happen, and of course behind the scenes. Tatu, what is important, I think, as women coming through the ranks, I didn't have an easy journey. This lifetime, I definitely made a decision to clear my karma, and those that relate to that will understand that. And so I decided to take everything on in this lifetime. So I feel like I've lived 10 lives in this lifetime, which is quite bizarre. And the reason why I can really engage with our 3 powerful mining people today, and that is because I spent a lot of time in mining, and I love mining. It's quite interesting because it's the salt of the earth. And I really think mining brings an incredible amount of, it's the backbone. It's been the backbone of South Africa for a long time. And sadly, banking's become the backbone of South Africa and has pulled us through the difficult times. And I think we need to go back to our mining days and bring it alive once again, because we have so much to offer in the mining sector. And I must say, having worked with a lot of the mining organizations through some very trying times, as a leader and as a woman, dealing with men and dealing with challenging situations like strikes underground and whatever, I'm really privileged to work with our people today. So thank you for the privilege, Tatu. So Tatu, let's just go in quickly into just a little bit about leadership. I think for all of us, I mean, we're all learning. I learn every day. Every single day I learn. And I think the day we stop learning is the day we do ourselves an injustice. And, we're all learning about this new technology. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's like we are learning as executives and as leaders to now navigate through television, because I was with the TV crews just yesterday. And I mean, I don't know if anyone knew this, but because we're on these engagement sessions constantly, do you know that it's 3 times more taxing than any other environment? So that's why TV crews need to take gaps, because it's pretty taxing when you're actually working on our Zoom meetings. So that's something to consider. And it's also about how you hold your presence and have your digital presence. And Yashira was talking about it just the other day as well. It's so important that you attend and you get up and you show up, but we show up in a way that we lead with distinction so that we heard. And I think from a leadership point of view, Tatu, what's so important is that we engage with people so that our voices are heard. We cut through the clutter. We lead with honesty, integrity. We must be able to crystallize our voice so we are heard. And it's not easy for women. It is not easy for women. Trust me, I've just come out of very tough board sessions in this last week, and it's an amazing thing. And I know that the men that are online with us, thank you for joining. Thank you, because we need you to hear us sometimes. And I always say to my colleagues, the men don't always hear the challenges that we have. And often I will be in a meeting or in a board meeting and I will say something, and very second later, a gentleman will repeat what I've said and they will adopt that, whereas they've actually ignored what I've just said. And I don't know how anybody else feels, but it personally makes me feel very demeaning. It actually knocks me personally from a confidence point of view, and I go, but why? So I think it is about our diversity in our boardrooms and in our meetings, and for our men to say, but hold a minute, Janine or Tato, or Simi just mentioned these things a few minutes ago. So it's about us being comfortable in our skin. And aren't we all trying to get there at the end of the day? It is about also when we go to work, we also want to have a bit of fun. We spend so much of our time, at work, that we need to be able to be heard, engage, and it mustn't always be the struggle to have to try and be heard. So it is a challenge for us women. We know that, but I think the key thing as an authentic leader is lead with honesty. Sometimes I find, Tatu, and please, you ask me anything. The key thing, sometimes we have to be quiet. We might be quiet in some instances, and we will choose our time to speak. But we must be careful not to be too quiet. So it's that balance that we find between the two. Sometimes people have said to me, Janine, but my work will speak for itself. No, I have to just tell you, with the new, I can see a few people agreeing with me. No, your work's not going to speak for yourself. It's the weirdest thing. We have to pronounce it. We have to be heard, and we have to explain ourselves sometimes. And the many a times I've had to agree that I've had to take the journey. So I liken it to when you jump on as a leader, you jump onto this yellow bus. Always make sure you've got people that are jumping onto the bus with you. Don't be a leader that jumps too far ahead that hasn't taken the people with you. So that's always a big important thing. And the other thing, as a woman leader, when you are leading, make sure, and it's not always easy because we're so entrenched in the work, Tato. We focused on the work. We forget to put the ladder down to bring other people up. And whether it's male, female, whatever around us, make sure we are bringing people up and guiding and inspiring as we are coming through the ranks, because we're carving a way forward for everybody else, because it is often pioneering work that we're doing. Yeah? Tato, I think you're okay on that one. I'm going to carry on a little bit about maybe just going into ourselves. Is that okay? Just a little bit about our authentic leadership. You okay with that?
That's perfect, Janine. I see that a lot of people are resonating with what you just said, so which is incredible. So perfect. We can move on. Thank you.
All right. I always like to do a bit of a dipstick to check that we are on the, it's good, especially with you as the MC, and thank you. And you're doing such a great job for us. So just, I've made some notes of myself this morning because, it's our values. If I look at how our values in our country have sadly dissipated completely. The value of respect in our peer groups and our value as leaders. And, I think COVID, sadly, or maybe it's meant to be, COVID has highlighted that the lack of respect for each other, or maybe the lack of respect for ourselves, has dissipated. So I really advocate, and I'm doing it wherever I can. We can't change the world. What we can do is you can change the environment that you are directly involved in. So today, how many people have we got online? So however many we've got online today, each one of us are leaders, and everybody can make a difference. You don't have to have a title. You're all leaders. It's that nucleus that you can shift and bring in morals, honesty, respect at home. Firstly, that's crucial. And then amongst your friends, and then amongst your bigger circle. And if we can't bring respect into the workplace, then we've got a serious problem. So it is about respect and engagement. It's not always easy, and I know it's tough in the mining environment. It's incredibly tough. But I have to just tell you, it's shifted dramatically over the years. Having gone into mining myself the last 16 years that I've been involved directly with mining, and having to even media train, crisis train. It's interesting working with engineers, who work effectively in boxes. Their minds work in boxes, and then opening those boxes up. It's how you do it. So it's when we engage with respect and we open people's minds, then people start to learn different things, and leaders start to learn different things. And I just want to give you one quick scenario, because I've never forgot this as long as I lived, and I won't mention the mine, so don't worry. And it was a very big buyout that was taking place with an international organization, and I had to work with 16 engineers, and obviously all men, and they were really great guys. And I flew up to the mine, and in this mine, we sat there about this huge big boardroom table, and this train had delodged a bridge. And it had completely hijacked on the bridge, which was the main line to the port for the particular. So it was coal that they were actually shipping. So in this bridge, I looked and I said to the guys, "But where's your crisis plan?" Okay, so these massive boardrooms were filled with papers, and I said, "But this is the only bridge. Where's your plan B?" There wasn't a plan B. So what happens is where we come in, and when I finished with them from their crisis plans and their crisis communication plans, we were able to open our minds up. And I think that's what we've got to start doing. And I believe that's why the diversity of women is so important, because the guys afterwards, I mean, I spent 3 weeks with them, and they loved it, because they suddenly realized that they could do work differently, and they needed to look at things slightly different. They could communicate differently. And you know that when we did the final buyout, we worked with 4,000 miners on site. Do you know that there was not one negative article in the media? Yes, we had challenges. And we had to engage. We even engaged with the hairdressers in the town. I mean, who on earth? But the hairdressers and the churches knew how to spin the stories. And so we had to get to the people that were spreading the rumor mongering. So I know the miners on board can really relate to what we're talking about. This is hard stuff. And so when we do work, yes, we must do work, but do it with being genuine. And when you are real and you bring that into the workplace, you know what, guys, we actually find that we do our work so much better. But sometimes corporate works or culture forces us to become a certain person. And I really found that in certain corporates, and it wasn't a healthy environment for me. And it turned me into something that I didn't want to be. Then you know you're in the wrong place. Or you start changing the culture if you're in a position to help change that culture. And it's the behavior. You know, some of these places they have bars. They encourage bars and drinking after work and things like that. There's many of organizations that have stopped that, because yes, of course you can have a drink, but it never stopped there. And it's about the boundaries. So I think when we become boundaried, we have respect, and we start owning our space. Those are very, very, very important guidelines for all of us from a values point of view, and making sure that you put those boundaries in place, whether it's in your dress, whether it's in your terminology, whether it's the way you address people. I always found it was very, very, very helpful, especially being a woman. Over to you, Tatum.
Thank you so much, Janine. I love the what you're talking about is that all of us here in this room or on this platform are leaders, irrespective of what we do. And therefore we have a responsibility, you know, to speak out and name the stuff that we need to talk about. So thank you. I'm going to hand back to you to introduce the 3 incredible women that we're going to be going into a panel with, and we just jump straight into the panel discussion.
Sure, we've been having so much fun so all of those the people that are dialing in. We had quite a bit of fun beforehand, yeah. So we were all yeah. So thank you. So Leanne, maybe just wave at us. Leanne Samuel. Yeah, there we are. So I'll go through Leanne now, and of course we've got Dr. Simi Ramgulam. There we are, Ramgulam. Where's Dr. Simi? Can we see Dr. Simi there? Where is she on the screen? Dr. Simi,
yes,
will you smile?
She just waved.
Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you, Dr. Simi. And of course, Tabile Lang. Oh, man, you see, we practiced this beforehand, okay? And it was Langa. No, you see, now I've lost it. My Xhosa and my Zulu is getting messed up here. So it's Langa Mandla. There we are. Is that better? Good. Thank you, Tabile. And really, thank you. What an incredible group of people and a group of leaders. I mean, a privilege for me to be on the same platform as you. Thank you. Thank you for waking up so nice and early. I know you miners love it. But really, Anne, you know, from your point of view, your background is incredible. I mean, wow. You know, the fact that Duke really hunted you down and found you out was fantastic, because your background is fascinating. I mean, you're not only the executive director at Implats, and you've got a new chair. We were speaking about Dr. Advocate Orlane, Tandi Orlane is your new chair, which is wonderful. You've got another woman coming in to your organization. But as an HR exec, it's not easy in mining. It is really taxing and challenging. But you also have a fascinating background that you really understand the challenges that South Africa's been through. And we've been through a lot as a country. So I don't like to use the word, but it's apartheid. It's what we've come through. 40 years of apartheid. Your family's played an important role. So we'd like to just hear a little bit about that once I've introduced everybody. But thank you for playing such a a vital role in helping shift our country forward. And we need more people like yourself to share your experiences, please. And of course, Dr. Simi as well. Dr. Simi, I mean, wow. You know, you are so intimidating. Okay, first of all, you are so intimidating to all of us. You are incredibly powerful. You know, you're head of leadership. I think anyone that's got the name doctor in mining is enough to frighten anybody. So I think you also have a challenge that you've got to be able to work with the salt of the earth of miners. You know, mining is very salt of the earth. It's really the backbone of Africa, and it's something to be proud of. And so you focus on culture, organization, effectiveness at Kumba Iron Ore, and that's brilliant. You know, Kumba's had gone through a lot, but it's had so many successes. And you've definitely been part of that. So 20 years of organizational effectiveness that you've brought in. You have a deep interest in organizational reputation as a contract, as far as a lever to define and redefine your skills as the skills of other people, the diagnostic or organizational techniques of an individual, and the organization of how it moves forward. You also have a PhD in organizational psychology. So you really, yeah, it's enough to intimidate all of us. But what I love about you, Dr. Simi, is that you're real. You really are real. And that makes you so much more approachable as a leader to be able to effectively build change and bring change into the mining sector. So thank you. Thank you very much. Tabile, I can see you, so that's wonderful. So a lady in red today. Tabile, thank you very much. You are head of the transformation at Shell. And that's also been through a lot, you know, since the days of Benang Mahale. Now we've got your era. So it's, you know, Shell's been through a lot. You know, I remember the days of the fracking when, you know, everybody was against Shell and Shell was doing that. So it has a lot of perception and shifting that has got to go through. The oil and gas sector is sensitive. I mean, the Mauritian spill that's just happened right at the moment. So, you know, it's an industry that's alive and well and around us. So, and also going through its own evolution. So you really are at cutting edge of where it's going. You also have, you know, you're an experienced HR person. So dealing with the who, the what, the don't, the people that don't pitch for work, the people that do pitch for work, the ones that don't want to work. It's a challenging time. So thank you for being a leader and wanting to take this segment on, because it's not an easy segment, you know. So you're incredibly courageous in doing that. You also have a master's in management, energy leadership. I mean, that's a unique one for me. So you're incredibly intimidating. Leanne, you're not as intimidating, okay? So energy leadership from Wits Business School, a BCom in Honours and HR Management, and a BSc, obviously, in Biochemistry. So, sure, I'll get your autograph, and we've later, but we've agreed to connect later once COVID has obviously given us the level 2 and a privilege. So I think let's just go straight into the questions. Thank you. First of all, thank you for joining. A privilege. I think, Leanne, let's start off with you. Your journey. Yeah, unmute there. And your journey has been fascinating. Come on, Sherry. I've spoken enough. This is your platform.
Yeah, so thank you, Janine, and thank you for the introduction. It has been a fascinating one, and a lot of people on the call today, and Karen knows me for many, many years. I first worked with Karen when I just started my career at Nedbank about 18, 19 years ago. And it's so interesting, when I started my career at Nedbank, we were doing lots of diversity and inclusion training at the time. And I was a 23-year-old biracial girl going into the financial services. And I attended the diversity and inclusion workshop. And there were only white men in the workshop. And I was completely overwhelmed by it, because it was such a culture shock for me. And just listening to their stories, you know, it opened up a different perspective for me, in that most of them had spoken about their life experiences and them trying to embrace diversity and really being committed to the process. But it's hard when someone grows up in a certain way. And what I mean by that is, if you go to a school where there are only, men and white men, and you go to a church where there are only white people, and if you go to a university, and where women are always seen as the minority group and should be at home in the kitchen, cooking the food, looking after the kids, cleaning the house, you get to see the world from a man's eyes. And that's what happened for me when I attended those diversity workshops at Nedbank. Is I thought, in order to empathize or to understand another human being, you should be able to put yourself in that person's shoes, because we as women may be struggling to be accepted, but for a man in South Africa, it's just as difficult, So, and it's an important lesson that I learned very early in my career, because it helped me to see men differently, and to see that they also have fears, and that they also struggling, and whilst they are willing, they may not always know how to do it, and as women we need to help them to understand why it is important to embrace women in the workplace, to empower women in the workplace, and how to be the voice of women. So that was a very interesting experience for me very early on in my career. So not only was it, a race thing for me, it was also a gender thing, in terms of really understanding that there are differences in the workplace. We are not the same, and it's okay not to be the same, because there's strength in diversity, and that's why diversity is important. But it's not about focusing on the differences, but trying to identify the similarities and the commonalities, and build on the strength in that we are more the same than what we are different, and to focus on that, because that's the glue that really binds people. When you are able to take a step back and put yourself in someone else's shoes and understand where that person is coming from. So that was a part of my learning. So I was in the financial services sector. I've been in telecoms, and now for the last 12 years, I've been in mining. All of my experiences have gotten me to where I am today as an individual. I think the nice thing about mining, and what I say to the ladies when we're having a prep session, mining always feels like it's a place where angels fear to tread, and when I talk about angels, I talk about us women, because it's a very hardcore environment, but it's been a really interesting journey for me. And the reason why I'm in mining is because of the impact that mining makes in society. Yes, from a GDP perspective, mining contributes. From an employment perspective, mining has about 500,000 workers. And all of you will know that for every one miner, there's about 9 to 10 direct and indirect dependents. So say 500,000 workers, we impact on 5 million people in South Africa. And not only that, so whilst mining makes a positive contribution to South Africa, its economy, and the employment, we've also had a role to play in the destruction of society, in parts of the devastation. In that mining has operated for hundreds of years, and implants for about 100 years, but we've had lots of migrant workers, coming into the cities to find employment. So we have contributed negatively to society, in that mining has contributed to broken homes, broken families, broken communities, and part of the injustices in society. So I do believe that part of transformation within mining is really to try and make right some of the injustices of the past, and that's really why I'm in mining, and I do believe that we can directly contribute positively to society through transformation, empowerment, and just breaking the divide that has existed for such a long time. So yes.
Lee, can I just come in there on that? So, because you've said a lot, you've said so much that's so important and so relevant to everybody. I just want to swing across to each one so that we can get a spread, because you've said so much, and it's so, we live with this, and it's so important for us to be heard. It's crucial what you've touched on. So thank you so much. Right. So Tamile, can I jump across to you and just really your experiences, because Leanne has also covered the sections that so let me dive right into you if you don't mind, just to get because it's an hour we've literally got 30 minutes left, so we've got to just make sure. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So thank you, Leanne, for the introduction. My role at Shell is HR Consultant Transformation, and I'm responsible for the talent management portfolio and also learning and development. So I am really honored to be amongst, all these powerful ladies here. And I think it's important for me just to make a disclaimer that I am not a subject matter expert when it comes to this topic. But I'm really hoping that by sharing my own individual experience, I can contribute to us trying to resolve this multifaceted challenge that we face as women. And I think this will actually take, partnership from both males and females. It is not a unique problem to South Africa, but really it talks to what the world is facing. And coming together in such discussions or forums actually helps us to better define the problem. And also, we come up with different solutions to this problem. So I'll just dive into it. So I believe that my experience in the sector really has been diverse. I've been on the extreme end, and currently I can say that I'm actually on the other end, which is the positive end of the spectrum in terms of just what you experience. And I will just make a quick example of where I started as a graduate and perhaps why I have stayed in the sector. I worked for an organization, came in very fresh from university, and I was part of a project team where in the project team then they spoke Afrikaans. So naturally, when that happens, you are young, you're a graduate, you don't know what is right, can I challenge, and who can I challenge in terms of this. As Janine has shared, my surname is Ndlangamandla, so there is no way that I understand Afrikaans. So, and for the first time that this happened, obviously I did not challenge it. And it happened again in another instance. And then suddenly I requested that can they please switch to speak English so as to accommodate me in the room. And the comment that I received back was that I also need to learn how to speak Afrikaans, which for me talks to, again, forcing us to conform to a specific narrative or a specific character within the sector. And I can say, fortunately, I was, my line manager had created an environment where I could actually have open discussion, honest discussions with him. And I had raised this then as a concern to say, I do not feel that I am learning and that I am part of this team, because this is what happens when we're in meetings. And specifically, this would happen when he is not in the meeting. And so what happened then thereafter, he actually sent a communication requesting the team members to please, speak in English, make sure that we are inclusive. And secondly, he gave me he gave me the right, or rather the confidence to say, if they speak Afrikaans in a meeting where you are also invited, you're more than welcome to excuse yourself and they can come and tell me why you had left the meeting. And I think, firstly, being empowered by a leader in the business meant a lot. Secondly, being a male that is the one that is actually amplifying your voice as a woman helped for me to actually build my confidence. And I think to the same breath, also set the tone for my career in terms of what are the non-negotiables. He actually helped me to understand that when something is wrong, it is okay as a woman to voice it out as something wrong. And it is also okay for you not to accept it just based on this is the culture that has been entrenched. And I can gladly say that currently I'm on the extreme extent or of the spectrum, because my current organization, really the culture is more on inclusion, it is on care, and also really respect is the backbone of everything that we do. And by respect, really the emphasis is understanding that we are diverse, but also respecting the fact that together we can achieve more, and that diversity is actually necessary for us to grow as a business. I think that's all I can share at this stage.
Sure, thank you. It's a lot, and it's very powerful. Your stories, Leanne, what you've gone through, and Tabile, what you've gone through. This is real, and this takes courageous leadership stepping into this to be able to share this. So it leads us on to Simi. Thank you very much, because these are the stories that would help each other move forward and inspire others to grow and to develop and be courageous in their own working environment. So Simi, from your side, Dr. Simi, I just wanted to reach out to you. Your background is incredible. I mean, wow. I mean, from a leader, what you've done and what you continue to do. I mean, you've had 20 years of experience. I mean, when you come onto the screen, you look like you're 16. So, I don't know where your age has gone somewhere in the line here, but you certainly don't look it. 20 years of organizational effectiveness. So come on, share your story with us, please, ma'am.
So I think mining has always provided quite a safe home for me. I mean, it's kind of counterintuitive. Through my industry experience, I find that I always go back to mining. So I started off in my career with BHP Billiton, and then found myself a number of years later back in mining. And it's where I feel most relevant. It's where I feel most inspired. So there's something about that connection with what you refer to as the salt of the earth people. You gain quite a bit of currency and engagement because you've got to register at different levels in the organization. So it makes it quite malleable. It makes it quite powerful. So yes, as much as I concur that it can be a difficult terrain to navigate for women, it's also quite a nourishing terrain in many respects. And we mustn't forget that. I think that we can all attest to the fact that it's nourished us a great deal in certain respects. It's quite a fertile time in mining for inclusion and diversity. So it's quite stimulating. Yes, it's emotionally loaded currently. With COVID-19, things have been brought into stark relief, the inequalities in society. But I think that it's a fertile time to be thinking about inclusion. And we shouldn't squander the opportunity to really reinforce our thinking and our vision behind inclusion and diversity in the mining industry. So I love to talk about concepts like intersectionality, because it's where social identities overlap. And when we focus quite robustly on the plight of women, well, even the opportunities for women, so the positive and the negative, we have to guard against insularity. So we have to guard against negating other demographic groups. So it's a delicate balance. Certainly we need to elevate the voices of women in mining. We need to be attentive to their needs, to the constraints and to the opportunities. But it's not one or the other, it's both. And we have to do both. We have to bring an awareness of intersectionality, about different identities, about the fluid nature of gender currently. So it's an exciting time, it's difficult terrain. I can't say we have it right at Kumba, but I certainly believe that the dialogue is headed in that direction. So very exciting time. I hope that covers a little bit about my passion for the topic of specifically intersectionality.
So I'm going to ask the question that maybe everybody wants to ask. What do you mean by that?
So intersectionality is basically about social identities overlapping. So, for example, women feeling persecuted, feeling discriminated against, it's not in isolation of other groups who feel that they are marginalized. The black man's plight in South Africa, it feeds very, very strongly. It's interwoven with the plight of the black female in South Africa. So all of these demographic groups, they all kind of, come together, they reinforce each other, they create systemic injustice. And, you know, without alienating people with unfamiliar concepts, it's something we really need to start digging into. Because in elevating women, we mustn't lose focus. But there's a whole gamut of inclusiveness ideas that we need to grapple with as well, and that we need to talk about.
So thank you, Dr. Simi. You're spot on. And I think we can all see how the three comments have, you know, from each one of our incredible leaders have all interwoven. So Leanne, from you know, really your background of apartheid, what you've lived and what you continue to bring through, you know, Tabile, from your side, and you've lived it, and how you are shifting and changing that environment. But you had great leaders that walked that journey for you, that opened those doors. And Doctor, what you're doing is you're really elevating it into a work stream point of view. What I want to just dive into, because I know we're heading towards time and we almost need 2 hours for the session. It's far too short, an hour. So please, can we have another session on this one? But what I'm hearing is I'd like to shift the word from diversity to unity. Diversity is dividing people and unity is bringing us together. And I think as a unity, Ubuntu brings us together. So could we just speak a little bit about yourselves as women, what you experience in the workplace, and how what it means to you about the safety, the security, the environment, and how you're able to shift that? Because safety and security is a big issue. You do deal with it on a regular basis. Maybe start with you, Leanne.
So are you referring to safety and security from a harassment perspective for women in the workplace?
Yes, I think, you know, especially mining, you know, it's an unusual sector. We don't have, you know, in South Africa, 17% is women involved in mining. It is shifting, it is growing. So you know, are you safe when you go to mines? I've always felt very safe. Very safe. I've never had issues, but I make sure I put those boundaries in place. But I haven't gone underground physically, and it's a challenge. So how do we instill that in the respect line, and for our male counterparts to respect us and to respect our bodies, and that we are equals and we're able to do the work?
So Janine, we do a lot of communication and awareness around safety in the workplace. I mean, safety is one of our #1 values. And we have a diversity policy and a sexual harassment policy that we've rolled out. And we do encourage employees to report cases where women feel that they are either being victimized or threatened in any way in the workforce. But there is a lot of fear associated with reporting any kinds of incidents, and it really pertains to people or women not feeling protected or feeling safe enough to do that, because they don't know whether the system will truly protect them, you know, or will the system find ways to protect the male who actually did the transgression. So we are focusing a lot on that in the workplace. We do have things like buddy systems when women go underground, and women, for example, will not work night shifts. So women only work day shift. There are things where we are trying to improve the environment in terms of physical environment with regards to change houses for women and enhancing the change houses, and also toilet facilities underground, so that there is a proper separation for men and women, and we women feel that it's safe for them to go and use the bathroom facilities. But it's you know, we've still got a long way to go in that regard, and it's really getting women to start speaking up, because what I find, like, we have 50,000 people with a workforce that has about 22% representation, but very few cases or incidents are reported, and that's because there is that culture of fear, you know, not knowing what will happen if they report it.
Very, very valid. And I think that's all for all of us on today that have dialed in is hear that, Leanne. I think you're sending a very loud warning for all of us in all aspects, because it's a reality. It's something that we live with and we want to shift it. So each one of us see how we can play a role and to help shift that dimension. So Tabile, I mean, from your side, I'm watching the time because Karen's got to come on as well. So just on your side, in living this from a safety, security, and also as a woman leader in the respect line, how does it affect you?
So firstly, I agree, with Leanne in terms of all the measures that they've put in place, but it is my belief that culture really will set the tone. We need to be very clear about what are the types of behaviors that organizations will accept and what are the non-negotiables. And I can say that I have never, in my experience, felt that I am unsafe. And I think that, again, talks to the type of leaderships that we have in our organizations, where they would actually be the ambassadors for change, so that there is not necessarily, there isn't, so that there isn't even a discussion in terms of, women not feeling safe in the work environment. So I think, again, for me, it starts from us clarifying what our non-negotiables are, and actually also considering, what are the things that we will do as organizations then to try and make sure that women feel included, and that it does not then spill over to unnecessary exclusion of other people, as Dr. Simi has really alluded to.
Thank you, Tabile. Thank you very much. And Dr. Simi, please, comments from your side and your experience and how you've helped bring people together in the unification side of things pertaining to the safety, security, and what we find, even with the patriarchy that we find in our society. From your side?
So I'd like to weigh in a little bit on the idea of psychological safety. So we've chatted a little bit about how mining has deeply entrenched prejudice. It's a legacy of pain and inequality. We can't negate that. It is what it is. Certainly things are improving, but we have a dark history. And with that comes a lack of psychological safety on many fronts. So we've done well to implement dialogue forums. So we've done well in terms of channels and engagement mechanisms. But how people show up to meaningfully contribute to those engagements needs work. We need to actually coach leaders on how to create psychological safety so that we can talk about the things that really matter. So we know what shifts culture. What shifts culture are conversations, it's dialogue. And without meaningful, authentic dialogue where people can feel vulnerable and safe enough to share, you don't actually shift a culture. So psychological safety really needs work in the mining industry. We do a lot on the technocratic side to set up the structures to facilitate dialogue, but not necessarily to engage at a meaningful level. That's my view.
Thank you. I loved it when you said the psychological side, because you can actually be in a safe environment. The business can create a safe environment, but psychologically that person is going through their own stuff. And I think that's when we realize that everybody is, if I can use it, just coin it quickly in closing, and that is everyone is dealing with their own stuff and working through their own journey. And we must consider that as employees and as employers. So thank you for your insightful journey. I'm going to hand over to Tato in the interest of time. I know we've got 7 minutes and we want to please close off with Corin Rue. So Tato, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. And I must say, well done to you, Janine, for managing such a tight, because I know you had such a difficult job, but you did well. And thank you to Leanne, to Tabile, and Dr. Simi. It was an incredible conversation, and I agree that it has to be 2 hours. So we'll think about that. Karen, over to you. So Karen is quickly just talking about our commitment as Duke CE to doing the work around this conversation in this industry. Karen, over to you.
Wow, what can I say? It's just left me with the thought that we've started a journey which needs still a lot of dialogue. 4 strong women. Janine, if I think yellow bus and a ladder, I can just visualize that yellow bus with women climbing up with that ladder. Wonderful message from your side. Leanne and Tabile and Simi, what it has left me with is that I think it's such a deep issue, and we've really touched the surface, and it needs such deep dialogue. And what my thinking is that we should set up a series of dialogues around this. And if I listen to our audience and the messages in the chat box, just the word Afrikaans has elicited such comments. And we have to be honest about this and talk about this, because there's more issues like this. And that's how we're going to really commit to South Africa and changing it. I also do believe that there's a new wave for gender issues, and that things are starting to change, that the voices are starting to be heard. And Simi also to say that there are different groups and different views and different definitions around what gender is. And I love hearing those different viewpoints. So for me, it's a journey that we need to continue. I also want to stress that there's a lot of commitment from our side at Duke around development, not only of development of women, but across all genders. And I do want to thank the gentlemen that have joined us today and their voices in the chat boxes. So David, you haven't gone unnoticed, so thank you for your comments. I do appreciate that. I also want to share with you that we in Duke are launching a couple of new programs, 2 qualifications. One is called Digital in Energy, Oil and Gas. We're very proud of that, and it really focuses on some futuristic trends that we're building into the qualification, very much around digitization, which is not even a debate, but around some of those leadership qualities that speaks to the dialogue we had today. Also a digital leadership and business transformation qualification. And the benefit of this is that delegates would walk away with a postgraduate diploma in enterprise management, which speaks to the qualifications itself. It's very futuristic. We've also considered our clients' opinions in designing those qualifications. And I also want to walk away to say that there's a virtual series that we've launched for women acting in power, which very much talk to what we've done today. It's 3 short series talking about women in power and how you can influence and bring your voice to the forefront, with a coaching session at the end of the process. And with that, I want to leave us to say August is our Women's Month. May all the women and all gender out there celebrate the month with us. Duke wants to always contribute to that month. And I'm going to make sure that this series of dialogue continues, myself and my team. Yashira, please make a note of that. We're going to continue this journey. And I want to say to everyone today, our panelists, Janine, Tato, thank you very much. For everyone who's joined us, thank you very much. Have a wonderful Friday and weekend. And do not forget the people who've suffered with Marikana. Tomorrow is the celebration. I think it's 8 years tomorrow. We are thinking of them. Have a wonderful Friday and goodbye.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you for those words. I think just closing from my side, I made a couple of nuggets from these women as they were talking. And just to wrap it up, I would just want to visit my nuggets. So just in closing, thank you for taking the time to be spending with us. And from Janine's keynote, the nuggets that I took is that really our values are disappearing. And for every nugget, I've just posted just a little challenge for you to walk away, something that you continue thinking about. So she said something that really touched me, and she says, our values are disappearing. And I think for me, it's sad, because if you want to build a society, if you want to amplify our voices as women, we cannot deviate from our core values. So my challenge to you is, how are you going to reinstill the key values like respect in the spaces that we find ourselves in? So thank you for that, Janine. And then from Leanne said, in order to understand another person, you should be able to put yourself in their shoes. And so for me, it speaks to empathy, which is something that we speak a lot about at Duke and we teach in our leadership programs. And it's so vitally important for us to work together collaboratively. So my challenge is then, how do we help our male colleagues? How do we as women help our colleagues? How do we be empathetic to them and also understand that they also struggle and help, but how do we help them to help us amplify our voices using this empathy? And then what Tabitha said is that we need to be empowering as leaders, but also set those boundaries, right? And to say it's okay to voice things out that are not right. So the challenge is that how are you deliberately empowering others that are within your sphere of influence? Because we also need to empower each other. And Dr. Simi was interesting because she taught me a word that I didn't know about, intersectionality. So I learned this today. It was incredibly powerful, and I think it's vitally important, especially in this industry. So he said it's not just a matter of elevating women, but we need to bring the intersectionality into it. And then she explained that it's social identities overlapping. So we need to engage, and he said we need to engage at a meaningful level. So for us to change cultures, we need to have dialogues. So my question is, what are you doing in your space to have those meaningful dialogues? How are we being deliberate in having those dialogues to take action and make things happen? I think I'm encouraged by all these words, and I then extend the invitation to you. I encourage you to also continue to have a sense of commitment in all of those things and do something in your influence. At the end of the day, we are all leaders. So thank you once again. We are exactly 2 minutes out of our time. I apologize for that, but thank you. Enjoy your Friday, but most importantly, let's keep the conversation going. Let's not stop here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
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 Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.